It's July 20th, 1944, East Prussia. The Wolf's Lair. The air smells like pine, sweat, and fear. Inside a wooden conference hut, Adolf Hitler stands over a map, tapping his finger at the Eastern Front. Around him, the last loyal men of the Reich nod along, but one of them is holding a bomb. That man is Claus von Stauffenberg, an aristocrat, a decorated soldier and a believer turned traitor. Just a year earlier, he was fighting for Hitler's empire. Now he's risking everything to end it. He walks in with a briefcase. Inside it, a British-made explosive, primed for justice disguised as strategy. He places it beside Hitler's leg, excuses himself, and walks out of the room. Minutes later, hell erupts out the table splinters. Smoke fills the hut. Screams echo through the compound. And for a brief, impossible moment, the Third Reich's nightmare ends. Or so they think. Because here's the part no textbook emphasizes. Hitler survives. The blast kills 4 men, but not the one it was meant for. A heavy oak table leg shielded him from the full force. Within an hour, the world's most feared dictator emerges from the wreckage. Suit torn, eardrums shattered, eyes blazing. And in that moment, something snaps. Before the bomb, Hitler was paranoid. After the bomb, he was possessed. He believed divine forces had saved him, proof that fate had chosen him, that he couldn't die until the war was won. To his inner circle, he started calling himself the chosen one of Providence. To the generals who doubted him, he became their executioner, because this wasn't just an assassination attempt. It was an intervention from his own military elite. The same men who built his war machine now wanted him gone. They saw what he refused to see. The war was lost. And his madness was dragging Germany into the abyss. They called it Operation Valkyrie, a plan to kill Hitler, seize Berlin, and end the nightmare before the Allies reached the capital. They nearly pulled it off. But nearly doesn't win wars. And Hitler never forgave, almost. By sunset, the Wolf's Lair was crawling with Gestapo. Within 24 hours, Stauffenberg was executed by firing squad, shot shouting, "Long live sacred Germany." Within a week, over 7,000 people were arrested. Within a month, 200 were hanged, generals, officers, even family members. Hitler's rage had no borders. He saw traitors everywhere, in his army, in his staff, even in his doctors. He'd survived the bomb, but the trust that held the Nazi machine together, it didn't single quotes T. This is the day Hitler stopped listening to his generals and started listening only to his delusions. The assassination failed, but the Reich died that day, long before Berlin ever fell. The question is, what pushed Germany's best men to turn on their own leader? And what did they see inside Hitler that terrified them more than defeat itself? Asterisk, the plan to kill Hitler didn't start in 1944. It started in whispers, in the officers' mess, in the corridors of the general staff, behind closed doors thick with cigarette smoke and fear. By 1943, Germany's top generals knew the truth. The war was lost. Stalingrad was gone. Africa was gone. The Allies were coming from every direction. But Hitler refused to face reality. Every defeat, he blamed on betrayal. Every retreat, he called cowardice. That's when men like Henning von Treschow and Claus von Stauffenberg decided it wasn't treason anymore, it was survival. They'd sworn loyalty to Germany, not to madness. Treschow was the quiet architect, a frontline commander turned philosopher of resistance. He once said, "If we do nothing, this curse will fall on our children." His first attempts failed. Bombs that didn't detonate, plans that collapsed under chance and fear. But he didn't stop. He started recruiting officers, diplomats, even members of the Abwehr, German intelligence. Men who'd once lived and died for Hitler's vision were now plotting to end it. They called themselves the July Plotters. And their weapon wasn't just explosives, it was access. They needed someone close enough to Hitler to get within killing distance. That someone became Stauffenberg. Young, bold, and already half a martyr, he'd lost an eye, a hand, and 2 fingers in North Africa. To the Nazi elite, he was a hero. To the resistance, he was their only shot. By summer 1944, the Allies had landed in France. The Eastern Front was bleeding out. Every sane man in the Wehrmacht knew it was over. But Hitler was still talking about miracle weapons and final victories. So the conspirators agreed. If no one acted, millions more would die for nothing. Operation Valkyrie, originally designed to suppress civilian uprisings, was rewritten as a coup. If Hitler died, they'd use Valkyrie's emergency orders to seize Berlin, arrest the SS, and negotiate peace with the Allies. It was bold. It was desperate. And it almost worked. The night before the bombing, Stauffenberg wrote to his wife, "Everything must be risked. If I don't act, who will?" He knew he'd probably die. But he also knew Germany was already dying, one order at a time. Asterisk. It's July 20th, 1944, a Thursday. Warm. Quiet. The kind of day that doesn't know it's about to become history. Colonel Claus von Stauffenberg climbs out of a car at the Wolf's Lair, Hitler's hidden military headquarters deep in the East Prussian forest. The air smells like pine and gasoline. Guards salute him. Nobody suspects a thing. In his briefcase, a bomb. A British-made explosive packed with enough power to tear through concrete and steel. Inside, he carries death disguised as paperwork. Stauffenberg is nervous, but controlled. He's rehearsed this moment 100 times. Every gesture, every word has to be perfect. If he slips, if someone looks too closely, it's over. Not just for him, but for everyone in the conspiracy. He's led into the meeting hut, a long wooden room crowded with generals and staff officers. The air is stifling, fans whirring. Hitler stands at the far end, pale and jittery, pacing over maps of the Eastern Front. Stauffenberg places his briefcase beneath the table near Hitler's leg. He excuses himself, says he needs to take a phone call. His voice doesn't shake. He walks out, the clock ticks. 12:42 p.m. inside. One of Hitler's aides nudges the briefcase aside with his foot, shifting it behind a thick table leg. That single movement, that fraction of chance, saves Hitler's life. Seconds later, boom, the hut erupts in flame and splinters. Windows shatter. Bodies fly. A cloud of dust and smoke swallows the room. From outside, it looks like the world just ended. Stauffenberg, hearing the explosion, doesn't look back. He gets in the car, covered in sweat and dirt, his ears ringing. He believes he's done it, that Hitler is dead. He races toward the airfield. Within hours, he'll be in Berlin, ready to launch Operation Valkyrie, the coup that's supposed to save Germany. He boards the plane, heart pounding. Behind him, smoke rises from the forest. His briefcase bomb has done its job, almost. Inside the ruins of the hut, Hitler stumbles out. His uniform torn, eardrums burst, hair singed, but alive. Alive. It's the miracle he'll turn into myth. He thinks Providence saved him. But his survival will do more than just crush a rebellion. It will turn paranoia into policy. Because the moment Hitler learns who tried to kill him, the real war inside Germany begins. Berlin, July 20th, 1944, 3 p.m. Colonel Claus von Stauffenberg's plane touches down at the Rangsdorf airfield, just outside the capital. The sun burns through the haze. His uniform is still dusted with dirt from the Wolf's Lair. His right sleeve, pinned where his hand once was, flaps lightly in the wind. He doesn't notice. His mind is locked on one thought. It's done. Hitler is dead. His driver rushes him to the Bendler block, the German army headquarters. Inside, the conspirators are waiting. General Obrecht, nervously pacing. Colonel Mertz von Quernheim scribbling orders. Phones ringing in every corner. They've been holding their breath for hours, waiting for confirmation that when Stauffenberg bursts through the doors, he doesn't hesitate. "It's over," he says. "The Führer is dead." The room erupts. Hands slam on desks. Relief and fear mix like thunder. For a brief, flickering moment, they believe they've changed history. Ulbricht grabs the phone and gives the order. Activate Operation Valkyrie. Across Berlin, dispatches go out under Hitler's name, except Hitler isn't the one giving them. Messages are sent to army units, police commands, and regional offices. Stand ready. The SS has attempted a coup. Secure government buildings. Arrest Himmler and his officers. In a stroke of genius, they use the Nazi system against itself. Hitler's own emergency plan for internal revolt becomes the tool to destroy him. By 4 p.m., soldiers in Berlin are moving. The Reich chancellery is surrounded. SS officers are being detained, confused, shouting that there's been a mistake. For a few surreal hours, Germany is run by ghosts, men acting on the belief that Hitler is gone, but hundreds of miles away. In East Prussia, Hitler isn't gone. He's limping out of the wreckage, his eardrums blown, uniform singed, face pale but alive. When the smoke clears, he's dazed but standing. He keeps repeating one phrase, "The bomb. The bomb." Doctors treat him while Goebbels, Himmler, and Bormann rush to the scene. When Hitler removes his jacket, they see holes torn through the fabric, but not through him. The miracle of the Führer is born right there in the rubble. Goebbels whispers, "My Führer, Providence has spared you for Germany." And in that instant, Hitler believes it. Within an hour, a counter-message goes out. The Führer is alive. That single line kills the coup. Back in Berlin, confusion spreads like wildfire. Phone lines buzz with conflicting orders. Units loyal to the plotters hesitate. Others refuse to move until they know who's really in charge. Then, the fatal call comes through. Goebbels, ever the manipulator, answers the phone himself. It's Major Otto Riemer, commanding the Berlin Guard Battalion. He's received orders from the conspirators to arrest Goebbels and secure the government district. Goebbels, calm and confident, says, "Major, the Führer wishes to speak with you personally." There's a pause, then Hitler's voice. Hoarse, shaken, but unmistakable. "Major Riemer," he says, "you see I am alive. You will take orders only from me." Riemer freezes. Everything changes. Within minutes, he flips sides. His troops, the same men meant to protect the coup, now turn their guns on it. He surrounds the BENDL, ERBL, OCK. Inside. Stauffenberg and the others still believe they're winning. The radio has been cut. News trickles in slow, distorted. Reports conflict. Some say Hitler is dead. Others say he's speaking on the radio. But by 9 p.m., the truth is undeniable. The miracle the Nazis needed had arrived. And the plot was unraveling. Outside, the streets of Berlin darken under curfew. Tanks roll quietly toward the government quarter. Inside the Bendler block, tension becomes panic. General Fromm, the man who'd been silent all day, playing both sides, finally reappears. He claims loyalty to Hitler, pretending he had no idea what was happening. Then, in a moment of opportunistic cruelty, he turns on the conspirators. He orders their arrest. Stauffenberg, Ulbricht, Quernheim, and HAEFTEN. It's over. The revolution lasted less than 10 hours. At 11 p.m., the Bendler block courtyard is flooded with floodlights. Cold wind sweeps through. 4 wooden posts are set up hastily against the wall. Stauffenberg stands straight, refusing a blindfold. He shouts, "Long live sacred Germany!" As the bullets hit, he dies believing he had killed Hitler, believing Germany would wake up free. He never knew the truth. The next morning, the newspapers ran headlines calling it the Führer's divine salvation. Goebbels' propaganda machine went into overdrive, framing the bomb plot as proof of Hitler's destiny. Photos of the wrecked room, the shattered table, the twisted steel beams, all used as evidence that fate itself protected the Führer. But behind that story was terror. Hitler's rage consumed everything. The SS began arresting anyone remotely linked to the resistance. Thousands of officers, nobles, civilians. Trials were held in the People's Court, presided over by Roland Freisler, a man who screamed death sentences like theater performances. They filmed the executions. Some were hanged with piano wire, their final moments broadcast to Hitler himself. The message was clear: betrayal would be met with annihilation. The army that once stood proud was now terrified into obedience. And Hitler, the man the bomb couldn't kill, became more paranoid than ever. He stopped trusting his generals. He stopped leaving his bunker. He stopped being human. The July 20th plot didn't just fail, it sealed Germany's fate. Because in surviving, Hitler convinced himself he couldn't die. He believed the universe itself was on his side, but that belief would lead him straight into the bunker less than a year later. The same bunker where the miracle would finally run out. April 1945. Berlin is burning. The Reich that once promised 1,000 years is now measured in hours. Outside the bunker, Soviet artillery pounds the city into rubble. Inside, Adolf Hitler, the man who once ruled Europe, sits trembling, hunched, mumbling over maps that no longer mean anything. He still talks about counterattacks, phantom divisions that don't exist. He gives orders to armies that are gone, to generals who are dead or defected. Every courier brings bad news, yet he refuses to hear it. He lives in the ghost of July 20th. That day, the day he survived Stauffenberg's bomb, became his religion. To him, it was proof of destiny, divine protection. If he survived that explosion, then God must want him to rule. So even as Berlin crumbled, Hitler clung to the lie that had saved his sanity. He could not die. But everyone around him knew it was over. Goebbels whispered about loyalty. Eva Braun tried to smile through the silence. Generals avoided his eyes. The bunker was a tomb, sealed in fear, echoing with the sounds of collapse above. Still, Hitler ranted about betrayal. The July 20th plot had infected him with one fatal obsession. Everyone is an enemy. Every defeat became treason, every failure personal. He no longer fought the Allies, he fought his own shadow. He ordered imaginary offensives. He talked about miracle weapons. He claimed that death would be the final victory. But what he really feared was facing the truth, that his empire had died the moment his generals tried to kill him on April 29th. He dictated his last will and testament. In it, he blamed his officers, his people, his allies, everyone but himself. He wrote that Providence had chosen him, even as the walls shook with the thunder of Soviet guns. It wasn't defiance. It was denial. The next day, April 30th, 1945, the man who once survived an explosion beneath a table chose his own end underground. A pistol, a cyanide capsule, silenced out above. The Red Army closed in on the Reich Chancellery. They found his empire in ashes, his dream rotted, his prophecy dead. The July 20th conspirators hadn't killed Hitler, but they'd broken him. The moment he realized his own generals had turned against him, something in his mind fractured forever. He stopped seeing reality. He saw ghosts, betrayal, destiny, everything but defeat. And in that delusion, the war dragged on months longer than it should have. Hundreds of thousands died for a dead man's faith. In the end, the bomb at the Wolf's Lair didn't just fail to kill him, it ensured he would destroy himself. Because from that day forward, Adolf Hitler stopped being a leader. He became a prisoner of his own survival. Asterisk.